Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, back again with classic Doctor Who. Last time around, we finished off Fury from the Deep. What was that one about?
Well, they finally began to believe the fact that there was some kind of sentient seaweed in the gas pipes. And although we had basically supposed that the introduction of the sonic screwdriver was going to play into the end of it, it actually turned out to be Victoria's screaming that did the job.
Yes.
But they managed to, they had some really wonderful action sequences with helicopters and all this other stuff. Anyway, they managed to, I don't know if they completely destroyed the seaweed or not, but they certainly got it to, retreat.
Yeah.
Everything is returned to normal, and then in a complete surprise, Victoria decides that she wants to stay in the 1960s, despite the fact that she is a girl from probably the 1880s at latest, maybe 1890s. So, yeah, she's going to have some real catching up to do with the rest of the world.
Yeah. We have left behind Victoria at an oil rig in the 60s. Maybe not the greatest place, but,
But the doctor and his wife said that they would take care of her.
Yeah.
Until she got acclimated, I guess.
Yeah. This time around, this is, I believe, the last serial of Season 5.
Oh.
Yeah, so, of course, this is a 6-parter, so we'll be splitting it up over 2 videos, but today is The Wheel in Space, which is probably the vaguest title they could have gone with. So, no idea what this one's going to be about, although I do know, I'm pretty sure this one is heavy recons, so that'll be fun to react to. So,
if by fun he means not fun.
Nah. Oh well, they can't all be animated. Yeah. I mean, they can. They just haven't yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we will struggle through.
Yeah, but I think this is after this. There's only one other serial that's like heavy recons, and then we're almost done with them. We're getting very, very close. So
now, do they have all of the Third Doctor's?
Yes.
Okay.
The last of the recon episodes is going to be in next season, still in the Second Doctor's era. I think there technically were episodes that were missing, but they found the black and white versions and then colorized them later. So yeah, but I think for the most part everything is good for the Third Doctor onwards. So yeah, there's no real other lead in to this, so let's just go ahead and get cracking on The Wheel in Space. Wonder why we've got a weird, like,
TV screen frame on that.
The tube version of it.
I was fond of her too, Jamie.
Still find it odd that the TARDIS can sit on the top of the ocean.
Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't a little artistic thing for the animated. They did actually have the TARDIS fly away.
Hey, now that looks all right. Boy. Oh, look at it. Boy, what's that?
A hippopotamus.
Well, that's funny. Those pictures aren't what's happening outside, I'm certain of that. Well, why do they keep appearing then? They're temptations. The Tardis is trying to warn us to get away from here to somewhere more pleasant. I must have pushed the wrong switch. The red light stopped flashing. The power lines are overloading.
It's interesting, the TARDIS is actually trying to get them away.
The mercury's vaporizing.
Oh no, not the mercury.
Oh no.
Doctor opens a small door in the wall, revealing a compartment of which is mounted a short gold rod. He pulls out the rod sharply, then dashes to the main doors with Jamie.
What's happened to the TARDIS? I disengaged the tide vector generator. The what? Well, once removed, it alters the size of the TARDIS. The inside becomes an ordinary telephone box again. Come along, come and sit down.
He then moves onto the other door, pressing a button to open it as the Doctor joins him.
His living quarters here.
I feel like it's been a long time since we were on a spaceship. Oh, it's got legs. I figured it was like a Chumley.
It's Wall-E.
No.
Spooky space music.
Drifting aimlessly in space.
And perhaps we'll find some food in that machine as well.
I can give you another lemon drop.
Something a bit more substantial, please.
What do you fancy?
Well, right now I'd like a nice plate of roast beef with all the trimmings.
What, no haggis?
Hey?
As the doctor settles down to eat, Jamie
What
looks
about
at the
gravy?
plates of
I don't
pills and
think so.
tablets in mild horror.
Oh.
How am I supposed to eat this?
Yes, of course, it'll be delicious.
I'm out of a square meal, but this is ridiculous.
The servo robot begins to move down the corridor from the control room. By the way, that's kind of hard to read because they're in white and they're against a white background.
Yeah.
Moving to the far end, its tactile sensors shiver.
Its spider sense is tingling.
I see you shiver with anticipation as it probes the reason for the door to the motor section now being open. Sonic screwdriver?
Yep. Maybe. It's a little big. I don't think that's what the sonic screwdriver does.
As the doctor discharges the time vector generator,
Okay.
the well sealing the door evaporates. Spooky space music.
It's only about 80 or 90 million miles off course.
Try radio contact again, Rika.
Okay.
It's almost the distance between the
Station
Earth and
3
the
to Silver
Sun.
Carrier. Station 3 to Silver Carrier. Call sign LX88J.
Yeah, looks like Oscar Isaac.
LX88J.
This guy looks like Oscar
Come in,
Isaac.
please.
Oh. Ominous space music. These are the little things that were freed from the what looked like a cryo chamber.
I'm getting something.
I guess.
The strange egg-like spheres approach the wheel.
Oh, they're the wheel.
In a few moments, you're going to experience a sight rarely seen by human beings. In a few moments, you're going to witness the complete destruction of a rocket in space.
I don't know if you need to be so dramatic about it. Stock footage, I guess, for her. Alright. That's episode 1.
Well, you know, it's a great story that sadly suffers because we don't know, we can't see all the movement. But, I mean, obviously, they are, like they've done before, they've landed on a moving ship. Something has happened to the crew. We assume something that the servo robot has done to them for whatever reason we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But now the wheel in space is taking precautions to blast them out of the sky. So, very simple plot. It's a good story. It's just we got no visuals.
Yeah. I really do feel like it's been a long time since we were on a spaceship for the plot.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I feel like that happened a lot more with the first Doctor than the second Doctor. And also, I did notice at the beginning that it said written by David Whittaker, but it was based on ideas by Kit Pedler, who created the Cybermen, which we've kind of seen that before with, you know, based on an idea by Terry Nation. So I'm sitting here kind of thinking, like, okay, are we going to get the Cybermen in this? And I was like, well, if we're going to get the Cybermen, that'll probably be the cliffhanger. And then there just wasn't, so...
Yeah, but we do have a basic cyber organism, the servo robot,
Yeah.
who, you know, is, I guess, standing in for the Cybermen in this one.
Yeah, so...
80 million miles off course. They're alive on
18,
board
I
that
thought they
craft.
said 80.
They must be in a pretty
Oh,
bad
yeah.
way.
Well, I'll tell you what, eh? If you get scared, I'll let you hold my hand, okay?
I'm serious.
So am I.
You're such a chauvinist, Leo.
Now, I want you to take a deep breath and exhale as slowly as you can.
John Smith and Associates.
The doctor.
I can't put that down.
John Smith.
Really?
Aye.
Dr. John?
Gemma
Smith.
pointedly looks at the legend printed on her medical equipment.
Oh,
No.
there must be a lot of them about.
I dare say. You were passengers aboard the Silver Carrier, were you?
Do you think I could have a drink of water, please?
Gemma rises and pours Jamie a glass of water.
What happened to the crew?
She gets up.
I don't know.
Parapsychology Library, Dr. Corwin calling.
Parapsychology Library? What reference do you
you require Dr. Corwin? No reference, thank you, Zoe. I need your help in another way. Oh? One of the people retrieved.
So I need you to be the next companion.
Is that her?
Around the wheel and observe.
I'm just gonna take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Discreetly, of course.
Kilt. A barbaric form of garment is worn by a kiltie. Are you of Scandinavian origin? Danish?
No, I'm not. I'm a true-bred Scot, and I just think...
Scotland, of course. Pre-century history is my field, you see.
Oh, well, maybe not, but just you watch your lip or I'll put you across my knee and lat at you.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I shall learn a lot from you. Come on, James Robert McCrimmon. Do you know anything about interstellar flora?
And this is my little kingdom.
Well, she'll be a very useful
Bill
companion.
Duggan is enthusiastically showing Jamie his collection of exotic plants.
This doctor friend of yours, is he a scientist?
He is in a way, I suppose, yes.
What's his speciality?
It's, what?
Well, is he physicist, biochemist, astronomer, biometrician?
Yes.
Yes.
Out in space, human beings have got to rely on routines, ordinariness. Confuse them and you got trouble.
Yes.
I'm used to emergencies, trained in them. But these things, I don't know.
Should be quite an explosion.
Right, Zoe?
Yes, when you blow up the TARDIS,
Linear reading
rip a
is
hole in time and
198.42
space.
meters.
Or when the ship explodes and then they just see a police box drift away.
he enters the power room, desperate to find some way of putting the laser cannon out of action.
There's a push-pull door on a space station.
Looks like a Cyberman.
Might just be. Those eggs are bigger than I thought they were. Alrighty. Well, that was Trouton's week off, obviously.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a great story. Although we're kind of overusing the scientists who are, calm and collected, and the administrators who are always jumping to conclusions and wanting to blow things up.
Yeah, that has been done.
That's like the third time in the last 4 serials that we watched.
Yeah. And the thing, too, is that part of it is for good reason that they don't trust Jamie and the Doctor. Like, okay, the whole thing about saboteurs. I guess it does sort of make sense now, the whole thing of, like, well, people want the space program shut down. Like, okay, what is it to you? Like, whatever. But, like, it's okay enough motivation, and then obviously it does make sense. Yeah, here's this strange-looking kid who won't give his friend's name and everything, and then he suddenly vanishes. I get that. So yeah, hopefully it just doesn't last too long, basically. And I am almost 100% positive that Zoe will be our next companion.
That does seem to be where they're leading it.
Yeah. It makes sense to immediately, like, all right, so we dropped off Victoria. All right, so what do we do next? Another teenage girl. This time with science.
Yes, well, she's more like Vicky.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they are somewhat in the future, although they haven't said exactly how far.
Yeah.
So yes, and she knows all about what she calls prehistory. About Jamie's time from Scotland.
Right.
So, yeah, she will be at least more knowledgeable than Victoria was. And I'm really sorry that they never really developed Victoria's character. She didn't stay on that long, it seems.
Yeah.
So let's find out what she's up to. It's moving.
It is moving. It's a full episode.
Countdown 00000. And there was another program in the 60s called The Prisoner that had these kind of gigantic bubbles like this as well. But notice at one point you'll see the pipe coming off his head.
Yeah.
And now we see if he's not a Cyberman, he's something close to it.
Yeah.
Quickset plastic. Sure, you just happen to have that lying around in your control room.
I guess he can't just say our ship is on there.
Yeah.
Our ship is on that ship. Yep. Cyberman. I think they have the tier this time.
They have what?
They have a little indent for a tear. Also got a little tongue spot, too.
Yeah. They've gotten more sophisticated. Is this their third or fourth time around? Fourth, isn't it?
Should be... Is it fourth? Yes, fourth.
Where did you spring from?
I think that's immediate grounds to alert everyone.
Oh, Billy, we better hide you, Billy Buck. Bonkers.
Well, this guy deserves everything that's coming to him.
Well, I couldn't let you, that's all. Why? Why? Because the doctor told me to protect it.
Well, that's marvelous, isn't it? The doctor told me to protect it. Well, don't give a reason.
Now, it's all a problem in solid geometry to you, isn't it? Don't you care what happens here?
Well, of course. I'm only telling you what's going to happen.
Just like a robot. Facts, calculations.
Leo!
Proper little brain child. All brain and no heart. Gently now.
You want to know what's going to happen or not? I don't get this dude's problem.
Good. Well, that's all right anyway. I'll murder that little pest.
Probably should have done that in the first place. You can't just say it's a space bug.
Oh no, they're multiplying.
Now there are two of them.
Does your head ache?
Well, it did.
Short sleeve shirt.
Now.
Any
And
loss
yet
of
I would
memory?
swear he had cuffs
Just a little.
sticking out of
Does it
his
make you
coat
anxious?
pocket, or his coat
I
sleeves.
think you'll find my psyche in very good order.
Probably, but don't strain to remember. Concussion can bring about temporary lapses of memory.
Maybe it's like a leather jacket that has like a hood. He just has cuffs on the end of his sleeves.
I don't think we've met, have we?
Zoe? Dr. John Smith, isn't it?
John? John. Oh, yes.
Well, the rocket couldn't have drifted 87 million miles off course.
Oh, it is
So
87.
what's your theory?
Well, there's a record of the last
Well, obviously
contact
she's
with
right
the
about
carrier
that. The
rocket. It had
commander's
7
not.
million miles to touchdown.
Logic, my dear Zoe, merely enables one to be wrong with authority. Supposing...
Realize they must have two suits for each of these guys, because when they film from the back, it has to zip up the front. When they film from the front, it has to zip up the back.
I mean, you could step on him. This guy has been waiting for this role.
Run.
Just jump on him.
Its polymer strength is higher than chrome steel.
The Gordian knot couldn't be untied either.
I don't know what that means.
No, it means that
How do you not
there's...
know?
it means there's always a solution. No.
How does a historian not know about the Gordian
palladium
knot?
is a write-off, is it?
Completely. We've got a few spares, but not half enough.
I don't know how
We'll have
much
to get more up for
history
that.
she actually
The X-ray
knows.
laser
well, she
gun
talked about
will main
prehistory.
armament of the wheel with the X-ray machine.
Oh, of course. Why didn't I think of that?
Aye, why didn't you?
Well, all I had to go on was the fact that hyperoxide is unbreakable. I just didn't
The
think
plate
of
underneath
X-rays.
it isn't.
Simple common
Yeah.
sense works wonders sometimes, Zoe.
Well, at least you
think
didn't
outside the
of
box a little
X-rays.
bit.
That was...
I'm sorry you want to normal at 1800.
I'm Paul. I'm a fool.
You didn't do anything.
Me.
Told something.
Pretty foolish.
Man doesn't believe me, but they're
I can't turn around without somebody dreaming up some odd little thing happening, some bit of emotionally based fantasy.
Calm down,
Did
John.
you hear that fool, Duggan? Space rodents. The man's a rat.
Jarvis, will you...
Space rats.
Sensible, yes.
I'd like
There's
to
a
go
new-
through some facts.
Trilogy.
No.
I tell you, that rocket is the basis of all our trouble.
Oh, don't you worry about that. I've got some men to go across and look it over. But mysteries. Please, Gemma. Not you as well.
I thought he said he was good with
X-rays are
emergencies.
processed now.
Is that not what emergencies are?
Yeah.
Obey. Inside the wheel, you will help us. You will obey.
You know what's nice? Subtitles. Okay.
So the Cybermen are back for the 4th time in 2 seasons. Because they were there right at the end of the original Doctor. That was their first one, right?
Yeah. And that was the second serial of season 4. Then the Moon Base, Tomb, and now this. So...
Dalek Redux.
Yeah, they definitely are the new versions of the Daleks,
but they and see they do have a bit of an edge over the Daleks, because the Daleks tend to be very limited in what they can do, whereas these guys can actually move around and do all this other stuff.
Yeah,
so hopefully we'll see some better plot point other than we are out to dominate the world.
Yeah, I mean they're generally, like, their storylines are different from that. Like, I mean, I guess there is some, like, the 10th planet and stuff, like, okay, yeah, this is them trying to, I guess, conquer the Earth, but then the Moon Base, like, well, they're trying to get revenge on the Earth, especially after the 10th planet and stuff, and then, we're not sure what they're trying to do here, but eventually I think they should get to the goal of converting humans into Cybermen, so... I would imagine that has to show up sometime. Maybe that'll be this one. But...
And I wonder if this one, and certainly don't mean this to be sacrilegious to anyone.
Oh boy.
But do you suppose this one is going better because Dr. Kit Pedler isn't really an author? He's a doctor of cybernetics, and the idea that he turned over to David Whittaker, who is a real writer, and then he is able to take the original idea and flesh it out so that it becomes more entertaining rather than just, here are a bunch of, cybernetic men out to destroy the world.
It's possible, but I mean, the last two, Moonbase and Tomb of the Cybermen, they were really good, and I think those were both just Kit Pedler writing, so it's entirely possible, but I'm glad that that if we're going to, like, sort of pass off the Cybermen to another writer, that they're doing it kind of quickly. Like, again, this is still within the first 2 seasons of having the Cybermen, whereas with the Daleks, I mean, it was pretty much consistently Terry Nation until, half of the Daleks' master plan had to be taken over, because who knows what happened there, it just sort of falls apart. And then I don't remember the other 2 after that, which were Power and then Evil of the Daleks. Yeah. I don't remember if he wrote those exclusively or if they brought someone else in. So,
and again, don't get me wrong. I love the Daleks. It's just that they seem to do the same thing over and over again. It's like this master race of machines, and yet they have this gigantic fatal flaw each time. Yeah. So, and again, I think simply if Terry Nation had allowed other people to collaborate on that with them, there might have been a better way forward for the Daleks. I really can't even hardly explain it. It's just that I'm guessing because of Terry Nation's iron fist control over the Daleks, they weren't allowed to come up with ideas that would make more sense.
Yeah, well, because even like when you get into Power of the Daleks and even Evil of the Daleks, like, they are doing other stuff, but it's all still towards the same goal of eventually conquering the Earth or destroying the Doctor.
Yeah.
So yeah, which, I mean, I know we're on a break from the Daleks for a good while, so maybe when they come back, things will be refreshed. We can get moving on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, right now with the Cybermen, it really does feel like they haven't cemented what are we going to do with the Cybermen? What do they want? And honestly, it could even be that for a while we're just going to have, just each time there is a different goal.
Yeah. They do seem to be, again, I think the word now I was looking for is the Cybermen seem to be evolving. They're not doing literally the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So, and again, we don't know yet what they're doing here, but I mean, every time we see the Daleks, we know it's out to conquer Earth or kill the Doctor.
Yeah. And it also is that the Daleks are always seem to be in the same place. Like, okay, they're here, they're with their fleet, they're taking over, or they've taken over, or they're doing their invasion. It was only until, like, Power of the Daleks, like, okay, well, they're kind of being the servants here, and you don't really know what's up with that. Or Evil of the Daleks, where, yeah, they've taken over, but they're also doing this other stuff with the experiments in Victorian times and stuff. And the Cybermen are always in a different spot each time. Like, okay, they invaded the planet first off, but then they went to the moon base, and, they were sort of doing stuff around there. Then they were being revived in Tomb of the Cybermen. Now they're sort of on this spaceship adrift. So just every time we see them in a different spot, and we never really know, like, where they are necessarily. Like, the only one we really know is that Moonbase takes place after 10th Planet. Other than that, we're not sure where they are in their own timeline. Yeah. So, to hop into the notes, the first thing I wrote down is temptations. The TARDIS tempting the Doctor and Jamie to get away from there, which is interesting. Yeah. Which we've never really had. Obviously, we bring in the knowledge of modern Doctor Who of, well, the TARDIS takes the Doctor where he needs to go. And obviously, 50 years ago, not on their mind. But it is a good retroactive explanation. Yeah. But it was pretty interesting that the TARDIS was specifically trying to get them away. Now, whether that was because the TARDIS knew, if I land here, something is going to go wrong, which did end up happening, or if it was specifically because the Cybermen were there, the TARDIS was trying to get away. We're not sure. So, but I did like that. I guess that shows just a bit more of the TARDIS being alive and trying to, look out for them. So, let's see. And then we had the ship adrift, which I guess, I guess they never did get into that control room, and that's where the two Cybermen were. Yeah.
But the Cybermen hadn't hatched yet. They hadn't come out of their bubbles yet.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, which is why they had the servo robot going around doing everything. Yeah. So, which I thought we would get a bit more of that servo robot, but he kind of just seemed to be in those 2 episodes. So,
cybernetic gumdrop that he was.
Yeah. Well, it's also just interesting that, like, okay, so clearly it must have been that this servo robot was built by the Cybermen, at least you would assume so. So that's just interesting, having a robot build another robot, but they don't build the robot the same way that they were built,
It could be that the robot was, although we haven't seen any robots here on the wheel, I was going to say it could be simply a robot that helped the Silver carrier function, and they somehow managed to reprogram it. Yeah. But again, we don't know that, and I'm not sure that will come up again, since the servo robot appears to be defunct now. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I wrote down the stick. What was that stick called again? The
Alien?
No.
Some kind of like hyperdrive or something.
It was like the time warp generator or something like that. That was interesting. When they showed it, we both thought it was the sonic screwdriver, but then realized it was the other thing. So it's some sort of weird. It serves some function in the TARDIS. Now, he said, like, by taking it out of the TARDIS, it basically, like, cuts off the TARDIS itself. So didn't he say, like, you go in and it's just a regular police box now? Which I guess is just a way to keep the thing from, going nuts, I suppose. So
was it like the time vortex generator or something like that?
Something like that. I'm not sure. And then on top of that, we also need, I guess, a fuel link of mercury in order to get going again, which that kind of reminds me of the first Dalek serial, where it's like, oh, well, we need this one thing. Well, maybe it's in that city over there. And then the Doctor reveals, we didn't need to do that. I just lied so that we could go to the city.
And now they're apparently saying it does need mercury.
Yeah, so... I mean, it's never
consistency.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a 10th Doctor episode where they land in a rift in time and space in Cardiff, and the Doctor says, like, oh, it's good for the TARDIS. It, like, refuels the time space drive. He says something that has nothing to do with this mercury link, this stick, or whatever the thing was in the Dalek episode. So, obviously, the joke is, yes, there is no consistency on Doctor Who, but yeah, I'm not sure. We're never sure what actually powers the TARDIS. I mean, of course, then later on they'll say, well, it's the Eye of Harmony. That's what actually powers the TARDIS. So, I don't know. Let's see. I wrote down eggs, but those eggs ended up... Well, I mean, they were eggs. They were eggs that hatched the Cybermen. So...
Now, the ones, though, that came over to the hull of the wheel were the Cybermats, weren't they?
I would assume so.
Because they said they were very small.
Yeah.
And somehow they managed to get through the hull, which then the Cybermats, hatched out of them.
Yeah. So, and that was the thing, was when they only showed the eggs, you could never get a scale on any of them. So I thought that they were all small. So when when the two Cybermen hatched out of it, I was like, oh, these are a lot bigger than I thought they were. So yeah, so it hatched two Cybermen on the ship, but Cybermats on the station, on the wheel in space.
You'd think it would have a name other than the wheel.
Yeah.
Although the International Space Station is just called the International Space Station.
I guess.
The ISS. Yeah.
Well, maybe if they build a second one, they'll start getting names. So, I wrote down John Smith. Now, they have said that before, haven't they? At least once before, I imagine.
I think so. He had to give a name, so he called himself John Smith.
It was something like that, but that was clever. Of course, it makes Jamie and the Doctor look very suspicious, obviously. But that was clever, just looking over. It's like, Dr. John Smith. Yeah, they'll buy that. So,
at least he didn't say Dr. John Associates.
Yeah, so, and I mean, like, you would almost wonder, like, you could have thought of anything, like...
Oh, he's my father. Yeah, Dr. McCrimmon.
Yeah, and then, of course, I guess at that point, they would probably question, why don't you have the same accent? But then, well, I guess he was out cold by that point, so... Yeah. I was just trying to think of what was Ben's name, because then maybe Jamie could have used that, but I don't know if we ever got a name for Ben. Or Polly, for that matter.
I think they did... but I can't remember.
Yeah,
so Ben and Polly.
Yeah, and I don't think Vicky ever got a name either. It's sort of hit and miss on them.
I thought in the very first episode she was talking about her father, but then they never mentioned her last name after that.
Yeah, so, but I definitely remember Victoria Waterfield.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of companions that don't really have last names at the moment, we have Zoe now. So it does feel pretty obvious that Zoe will be
if you let the credits run there, they might have a last name for her.
Oh, that's true. Of course, they only have Jamie's first name.
Nope. Wendy Padbury.
Yeah. So, but it is pretty obvious she'll be our new companion. I mean, in this entire, space station that has, like, all right, here's all these adults, and here's our one teenage girl that we have on this place. It's like...
Who just happens to be a mathematical genius.
Yeah, so...
But see, that's the thing. The doctor, the psychologist, would be a better companion. But they're obviously never going to have another Barbara, somebody who is, older than, 25 years old.
Yeah.
But that was part of the appeal, though, of Ian and Barbara, is that they weren't teenagers. That they, again, the setup is something that they really haven't kept up. Ian and Barbara were there. They were teachers. They knew about history. They knew about science. They knew about math. And every time you went somewhere, they were contributors. And now, and again, Vicky being, the person from the future and having, all those degrees, but they never utilized that.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Stephen. This guy was supposed to be a pilot, mechanical engineer, whatever, and that really never came into play.
Yeah.
So it just seems to me that they need to get back to the original, to get back to companions who actually can contribute something to the travels, rather than just being along for the adventure.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that. And the part of the thing, though, with Ian and Barbara is that I feel like when they were created, they were created more as leading roles, because the Doctor was not necessarily the leading role. He was just sort of the mysterious old man that flew the ship. Whereas now, because the dynamic has changed and the Doctor is so much more of a prominent character, the companions have to sort of take a little step back on that one. Yeah. So, because like I'm thinking about like, okay, well, with the third Doctor we get like Jo Grant. Like, okay, well, she was with UNIT. If I remember correctly, she wasn't the brightest. She wasn't the brightest star over at UNIT. Yeah. So like I don't think. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get too many of that where it's like, all right, here's the companion and they can sort of take center stage and do all this stuff like Ian and Barbara did. I don't think we really get that. The closest I will say, though, is when we get to the 13th Doctor, 10 years from now when we catch up to that, I will say that the dynamic has sort of changed back a little bit where... Yes, the 13th Doctor is still very prominent. The companions do take another prominent role, and her companions right now are the two kids, or two young adults who are the sort of standard young adult companions, but she also took one of their grandfathers, and he's also along for the ride, and he is probably the most useful of the three of them, and like he'll chime in with some knowledge every so often. Yeah. So in that sense, it is sort of like that original dynamic, but for the most part, I don't think we're going back to that. Yeah. So, but they do there's at least a lot of potential with Zoe. Yeah. So, although I mean, they've all had potential. Well, maybe not Jamie, but they've all had potential.
But see, that's the thing. Jamie's growing into it as a kid from the late 1700s, early 1800s. He started out with nothing, but he learned very, very quickly. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, but I feel like even Victoria had a bit more potential when she came on board than Jamie did. Yeah. I mean, Jamie probably has had the least amount of potential, but yes, he's grown into it, but he's probably had the least amount of potential since like Katarina, which didn't last whatsoever. Yeah. So at least Jamie was able to last this long. Yeah. So let's see. We had everything with the laser and the quick set plastic, which just happens to be in the control room.
In the laser room, which I mean, I guess maybe if there's like a leak or something, maybe that's why it's in there. But yeah, there just is the quickset plastic, and
that was that's one thing I mentioned when they said they couldn't break through that plastic to look at the Cybermat, but she said they had to pry up one of the floor plates, so turn it over and cut through the plate.
Yeah, like if it was completely coated, then the bottom wasn't coated, so you could probably go through there. But then they used the X-ray and they figured it out. So let's see, and yeah, so we do have our Cybermats. When that guy is feeling bad about himself, like I should have told one, I'm a fool. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, you are a fool. What are you doing, man? Like, and especially when he says too, like, well, if I told Jarvis that there were space bugs, he'd say I'm an idiot. And it's like, yes, but you didn't do anything, and now we're in a worse situation, and a man is dead. So what are you doing? So I thought that was weird when he just immediately was like, I was like, oh, what's this strange little thing? It's like an alien that shouldn't, like something that shouldn't be on this space station. Like, call someone, do something, trap it. What are you?
Yeah, trap it. Now maybe he thought he had trapped it in the closet.
Maybe,
but there should have been a report on that.
I guess he didn't think it would start eating the Bernalium. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the thing from the Sensorites that you always bring up?
Molybdenum.
That was
because I don't think Bernalium is actually any kind of element or any kind of compound. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see. Well, I wrote down rest with the Doctor sort of being out of it for a little bit. I did like when it cut back to him and was like, oh, the doctor told me to do it. Well, thanks for that, Jamie. You know, like, way to deflect everything onto me, who is not really sure what's been happening. So, I thought that was funny. Let's see. I did write down the Gordian knot, because you mentioned how come Zoe wouldn't know about that. But I think she must only know a general history. I don't... because, you know, she didn't know about kilts, and it took her a while before she even thought, oh, Scott, you're from Scotland, that would be it.
Yeah.
So I think it wouldn't be that she knows... Like, she knows just a little bit of history to get by. Yeah. But she's mainly with all that science.
And if I may say... Anybody who ever took my world history class would know what the Gordian knot was. That was the story I told every year.
Yeah. So, let's see. I also did like how, you know, you get a character like Zoe who is like, okay, this girl is really, really smart. All right, let's put that against the Doctor. Because the Doctor is, well, he's like Superman. He's like as smart as the writers need him to be, basically. Like... you can't actually define how smart the Doctor is. So I did like how just there was moments of like, well, if you just apply a little common sense, you know, that some of the theories can work. Whereas Zoe is more like, no, facts, it's this, it has to be this because of this and this and this. That's how, you know, it works logically. And I like the Doctor's line of, well, logic is only a way of saying that you're wrong with authority. So,
if you can't be right, be wrong at the top of your lungs.
Exactly. So, I did at least like that initial dynamic between the Doctor and Zoe, and even Jamie, because, you know, she starts spouting off some crazy technobabble thing, and it goes right over Jamie's head, but he, you know, keeps going. So, it will be an interesting dynamic if we keep her. So... it makes her sound like a stray dog. Oh, can we keep this one?
And again, the Russian Tanya, I don't know if she's Russian, she certainly has an accent like that. So again, she would be the kind of companion that would do very well as well. So, but yes, I understand that they want to bring on Zoe because she's a young girl and there's interaction with Jamie and so forth. But looking at it from our point of view, we're especially me. I really want to get back to people who know what they're doing, people who can actually help in the Doctor's travels rather than just be taken, through a ride in the past and the future and go, wow, this is really cool. What do we do now?
Yeah, it doesn't help that technically, because we are left with one character who knows what he's doing, the Doctor. The problem is, half the time, he either doesn't know what he's doing or is pretending like he does know what he's doing, and he's making his way through. And you can never tell, and that's the problem with the Doctor.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing I wrote down is the Cybermen. It is interesting that they have just, 3 different voices going for all of them, too. Yeah. So, because the voice on, I guess, whatever their commander is, that is the classic Cybermen voice that we've had for a little while, but then the 2 actual Cybermen had different voices. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Either way, I'm glad that we have the subtitles for that. So and subtitles for recon episodes as well. So but yeah. Interesting story. It's while I was watching that 3rd episode, I was kind of like, oh man, I really need to enjoy this episode while I can, because I'm pretty sure the next 3 episodes are all going to be recons. So, but we're almost done with them.
All right.
We're very, very close to being finished with the recons. But that's all I got. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then I guess that is basically it. Next time around, we will finish off Season 5 with the last 3 episodes of The Wheel in Space. It's such a weird title. It's like, because I guess it's like, oh, it is the wheel that is in space, but I guess they just didn't want to say it's the this of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, seriously, one of the things that they teach you in playwriting classes, you've got to have a title that gets people interested. Now, if they wanted to say the space station, or the space wheel, or but the wheel in space could literally be anything. I mean, we talked about how in ancient cultures they sometimes thought that the there was this gigantic wheel in space, like that sets everything in motion. That all the everything they see with the sun, the moon, everything, that all revolve. That there is some kind of gigantic. I don't know if we call it a machine, but definitely there is this circular motion to everything. So I don't know. That's just Wheel in Space is a real clunky title.
Yeah, but at the very least, it meant that we didn't know it was going to be the Cybermen.
Yes.
Until we saw, the based on a story by Kit Pedler, and then we were like, I bet it's the Cybermen then. So, great job.
All right.
That's basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.